Good evening and welcome to the Milford School Committee meeting, Thursday, September 12th. This meeting is being broadcast and there are members of the local media here. If anyone would like to make a personal audio or video recording of this meeting, please let myself or one of the other members know. First up on our agenda is approval of minutes. We have the regular school committee meeting minutes as well as the executive school committee meeting minutes from July 18th. I'm not sure we have a quorum from those that were present at that meeting to take a vote, so we'll have to put these on the agenda for next meeting. Next up is announcements, correspondence, and distributions. Do any of the members have any announcements?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple.
Yep, Mike?
I'd like to send a congratulations out to the Catrocchio family on their son's graduation from the United States Marine Corps basic training at Parris Island.
Yeah.
I think we're very, very fortunate that we have young people that'll serve in our military, and I take my hat off to them. They should be very, very proud. The other thing, I was at the youth center last night, and I got to see the Spanish students that are in town with the students from the high school. And it was really nice to see them, intermingling the music, the dancing, playing games. They had dinner together. So just another testament to the Milford Public Schools, what a great job that, we all do. It really does, to see two cultures from so far away in our youth center. It is very touching. So congratulations.
Nice, thank you. Anyone else? Joe?
So I got to experience my first opening day as a school committee member. It was very
And it
exciting.
rained, right? Did it rain?
No, it didn't.
The bulk
No.
of it held off.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, it was a great event. I was very impressed with how smoothly everything went, and I think the administration, the principals, and the teachers all deserve a lot of credit. There were a lot of changes this year with the new administration team here in the high school, the new high school schedule, the new drop-off process at Memorial, new kids entering the school system, changing schools, and everything went off very smoothly. So credit to all the principals and teachers that organized that.
Good, thank you, Joe. A couple of things I have myself. It was just announced that longtime coach Steve Manguso is retiring, if you will, or stepping down as our basketball coach. It saddens me to say that. He has just been such an icon, if you will, in this school system for over 30 years. Not only as a coach for basketball and baseball, but he was also a teacher and a mentor to many, many of our students. And there will be big shoes to fill, but I wish him the best of luck as he moves on in his career at the college level. So I just thought that was wonderful news to see for him. The other thing is I want to mention we have two students from our student leadership team here with us this evening as well, Colin Brennan and Lauren Kiesling. Want to welcome them. Thank you for coming. And just sort of to tack on to what Joe said, first day of school I thought was absolutely fantastic across the board. Buildings were clean. The kids and the staff looked great. Special acknowledgement for Lisa Burns down at Memorial School. Bob may get into it a little bit more, but there was a new traffic pattern down there for the drop-off and pickup of students in coordination with the bus loop and in and around the crosswalks near Grand Street and Emmons Street that I think really opened it up a lot more, not only for the traffic, but for the safety of the kids. And it seemed to run a lot more smoothly. So I congratulate her on a job well done there. Yeah, Mr. Tremblay.
Yes, good evening. I have a couple of great announcements tonight. Chris Herron, as you may know, Chris Herron Project. We're fortunate enough to have Chris Herron coming to the Milford Schools on September 24th. We put out information on our Facebook page and on our school website. This is Chris Herron's a very powerful speaker if you don't know who he is, and I encourage you to look him up ahead of time. We're hoping to fill our auditorium that evening. We had some very generous donors who I'd like to name tonight who actually made that possible, and we're going to recognize them as well that evening. But Spectrum Health Systems in Milford, Community Impact, Carl Bright Insurance, Hillview Equipment Rental, Milford Regional Medical Center, Milford High School Boosters, Athletic Boosters, and Parents for Music Group. All chipped in to make this event possible, so it's by all of these groups. We hope to have a good attendance that evening. on the 24th. During the day, students will be at the high school will be in one of 2 assemblies that he'll have here. And what Chris Herron will talk about is that his very rocky journey through dealing with drug abuse and having lost his career as a member of the Boston Celtics. And it's a very powerful story that he shares with students, and it's very inspiring. I had the opportunity to see it last year firsthand at Nipmuc High School in Mendon, Upton, and it was great that we could secure him to come here for us. So that's an announcement, and I certainly invite the committee, members of the community to come that evening. More to come on that. And also, pleased to announce, this is part of the goals that I'll speak to a little bit later. It's our first ever, I believe, homecoming, Milford High School homecoming, 2013 on October 18th, Friday night. We'll be launching this on our Facebook page and on our website in the coming days as well. We encourage alumni, anyone who may be watching or reading the story about this later, to register for this event and to also register to be part of our alumni network. We're really trying to build an alumni network, and this is our kickoff event. And so it's gonna be a full afternoon, evening of activities for alumni, really recognizing them, and from alumni band members, alumni cheerleaders, to alumni athletes coming back to visit, and any alumni who attended Milford High School at any point. It's from last year on to as far back as we can reach out to. So if you know alumni, I encourage you to invite them to this event, and that's still under development, and it's a great event, I think, for the school district.
Exciting.
Leading that, Bob? Organizing that?
I am.
You are?
Yeah, but I'm doing that with Carla Tuttle for the tailgate, and
Okay.
Rich Pierre Gustavo, and we have a lot of players coming to the table to help
Okay.
out the high school administration. But yeah, so all the registrations will go through me.
Okay.
So that's all I have this evening for announcements.
Few exciting games that evening to watch.
Yeah, yes, we have a girls varsity soccer game, followed by a varsity volleyball game, and then the tailgate in the back courtyard, and then after that we'll have the home football game versus Oliver Ames. So it'll be an exciting night for alum.
Can't wait, look forward to
It'll be
it.
great, and I should fail to mention, Rob is part of that committee. In fact, Rob has the big job of the extended halftime show.
I don't know.
He's not.
Wait a minute. Watch the way you put that.
He's not doing the halftime show, but he is leading it. We'll introduce the alumni and so forth. So,
Very good.
unless you have something you want to.
No, thank
Okay.
you, Bob, that's great. Super. All set there?
I'm all set. Yes.
Good, next up, we have invitation to speak. Is there anyone here to speak this evening? Want to come on up and introduce yourself? Sure, please, have a seat.
Thank you.
Yep.
My name is David Martin, and I'm a Milford resident.
Welcome.
And I've lived in Milford for 22 years. My children have just gone through the Milford Elementary program, and they're high school students now. And I would like to talk to the board tonight, thank you for letting me speak, and Mr. Tremblay, about my experiences with Blackstone Valley. I am a former advisory board member there on their technical side for their heating and air conditioning shop. I do heating and air conditioning for a living, and I am a product of a vocational education, and I am very passionate about it. And I feel like Milford has sent students over there, and I would like the board, the school committee, to know firsthand on the processes of what I feel is going on over there after talking to some teachers while performing my activities over there as a advisory board member. And I think the school is missing their mark and on how their application process is going, on how the students are selected over there. The vocational school system has always been a good source for children that were not going to go off to college or not thinking about going off to college to go into a vocational program and learn a trade, whether that trade be cosmetology for girls or plumbing or, automotive. It gives the student another resource after graduation to get a job. And from what I've been told from some faculty members over at Blackstone Valley is that they're very disappointed the school is missing its mark, and the application and the students that they're taking are just ridiculous, and they're taking students that are grading high. They're interested in high MCAS scores so they can get more state funding. The average students have been left behind And, you know, these children have to go into, you know, traditional academic programs, which is fine, but they're not giving the opportunity to explore the vocational education that they deserve. So I'm very disappointed about that. I've been told that girls are able to get into Blackstone Valley a little bit easier than boys, that they preference girls over boys, and they do that because they are interested in girls going into non-traditional shops like plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, automotive, because they get more funding. So from what I've gathered in the 5 years being at that school as an advisory member is it's all about keeping the funding coming into that school, higher MCAS scores, turning it into a college preparatory school, and what they're lacking, in my opinion, is what they're meant for, and that's a vocation for students, average students that want to go there. I understand that there's 900 kids trying to fill a spot of 300, and there has to be a process. I am fine with that, but how they've done it and why, and targeting, you know, females over males, targeting children with higher grades, and the average kids not being able to get in, I feel is unfair. And there's many parents that I've talked to over the summer that feel the same way. Tradesmen like myself, I've been doing heating and air conditioning for 30 years. I am a success story of the vocational program. I went to Minuteman Voc Tech in Lexington, and I feel that that school did wonders for me, and I'm working in this trade. I manage an HVAC company now, and we're successful, and I'm just bitterly disappointed, and that's why I resigned from that board. I am also on other boards at other vocational schools, and I'm on a board in Rhode Island at a technical college. So I've seen many different programs, and I can speak firsthand about this, and I feel deeply saddened when the students of Milford don't have an opportunity to go into the vocations and they're told that they can't. And I commend Mr. Tremblay, Superintendent Tremblay, for what he's trying to do with adding more vocational programs to the Milford Public School systems. And I think that that is something that needs to be done and it needs to be addressed. And again, I completely understand the application process, but I think this should be a different type of process, that it's just not all A, B students, and that there might be some kids that maybe get a C or even a D, that these students that are average and are mechanically inclined have the opportunity to go to these schools. I've hired them from Blackstone Valley. They're good kids, but 3 of them have gone off to college, and that's perfectly fine. But there's a lot of other kids that don't get that opportunity. And one of the things that I noticed when I was in the admissions office, there was a big banner that they had about all of the students that went off to college, and that's wonderful. I commend them. I commend their high MCAS scores. That's a wonderful thing. Everybody wants a smart student. I just think that the average student, or even maybe the below average student, is getting left behind and not given the opportunity of a vocational education. And that's why I talked to Mr. Trumbull, and he thought it would be a good idea that I address the board, and I appreciate your time on the issue.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Right on time. Next up on our agenda, it is my pleasure to introduce Senator Bertnazzi here this evening to present this year's Outstanding Teacher nominees and recipient. Senator? Welcome. Nice to see you again, as every year.
Thank you. I enjoy the opportunity to come, and I want to commend the school committee for really taking the time in your meetings to recognize the kind of thing that we're doing here. I think we're both looking at this in the same way. We appreciate the fact that we have one of the outstanding school systems in the state. And we appreciate the fact that we do have one of the outstanding school systems in the state because we have some of the outstanding teachers in the state. Milford is a blue-collar town. The early settlers here obviously weren't people who were moneyed and in a position to be able to have strong educations, many of them. And yet, that very fact was why they so valued an education. And consequently, the town has always been supportive of the school system. They want the best for their students. Every generation wants their children to have just a little more opportunity than they had, and they've been getting it here in Milford. I want to point out, too, that the superintendent, Bob Tremblay, has just been fantastic in his support and his assistance in the program. I have to say that, matter of fact, since we started this, I think it's about 16 years now, every superintendent has really been very cooperative, and every school committee has really appreciated this kind of attention being paid to what's happening in the school department. We take pride in the people who take care of our children. And one of the ways that we can show that pride is occasionally recognizing some of the outstanding people we have. This is not a Best Teacher Award. I want to stress that. This is an Outstanding Teacher Award. We have many outstanding teachers. And so each year, we recognize one outstanding teacher in each building, and then we give our $1,000 award to one of those outstanding winners. I'm happy to say that we give it on the first day when all of their peers are present. There can be nothing better, to my mind, than starting a school year with the recognition of some of your outstanding people and particularly recognizing them in front of their peers. The kind of attitude that I sense when we do this each year is really upbeat, and I think it's a great way to start the school year. But fortunately, the school committee over the years has been very helpful in allowing us to come in and have a reenactment of the presentation. And so that's what we have here now, and I would like to present to you the 2013 Outstanding Teacher Award winners. Each of them wins the award in their school, so each of them is a winner. Can I stand? Is that a problem?
Please, go right there.
What?
Use that mic, you can pick it up.
Oh, okay, all right.
Do you want a hand senator Bernazzi? You want assistance, or?
Thank you.
Barker.
The first person that we want to award, the first Outstanding Teacher Award winner, is from Shining Star, Jean Prickett. The next Outstanding Teacher Award nominee is from Memorial School, Kathleen Demko. The next Outstanding Teacher nominee winner from the Brookside School, Mary Ann O'Sullivan. Unfortunately, the Middle School East Outstanding Teacher nominee winner is not able to be here tonight, but it was Matthew Zaccarino. From the Woodland School, our Outstanding Teacher nominee winner is Jessica Lamar. And from the Stacy School, our outstanding teacher nominee, Joanna Roy. Again, to all of you. The winner of the Outstanding Teacher Award from the Senator Louis Bertnazzi Foundation for 2013 is from Milford High School this year. She wins this inscribed book plaque and a check for $1,000. I noticed she didn't give that back to me. But our winner is Jennifer Walsh.
I didn't expect this. I'm kind of caught off guard, but very humbled by this award. And as you guys know, it takes a lot of people for you to be a good teacher. It takes a team. So I couldn't do it without everybody at Milford High School and the administration and the aides in my classroom. So thank you very much.
Again, I want to thank you. I want to again congratulate the winners, and I want to congratulate the school committee. You have brought into town some of the outstanding teachers in today's educational systems. Milford should be proud of what we have. You should be proud of what you've accomplished. Thank you for having us here tonight.
Thank you. Yes, Senator, thank you so much. It's become such an honored tradition to have you here, and the foundation that you do, and congratulations to all the nominees, and Jen, you do an outstanding job. We are extremely proud, so thank you. Yeah. Now, you don't have to give those back again, right? That's it. Okay, thank you.
Keeping the $1,000.
Yes, good for her. I don't blame her. Okay, next up on our agenda is the introduction of the Milford High School Guidance Director, Matthew Bayonne. Matt, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
promised it wouldn't be a
it's-
hot seat. Yeah.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You'll hear from, we'd like to hear a little bit about you and who you
Sure.
are and what brought you here. And, certainly we're glad that you took the time to come tonight, so.
Definitely, yeah. I want to thank you for the opportunity to come and the invitation to talk to you all and to introduce myself and to answer any questions that you might have. I'm very excited to be here in Milford. For the past 10 years, I've been working as a guidance counselor in Lawrence at Lawrence High School. Before that, I did my undergraduate work at Assumption. I got my bachelor's degree in social and rehabilitation services. After that, I worked in a couple different nonprofit agencies and went back to get my master's degree in education from Cambridge College. So for the past 10 years before I've come here to Milford, I've really honed my skills as a guidance counselor and really gotten to know the most important aspects of the job. And mainly, around scheduling students, supervising the advanced placement program in my school, coordinating MCAS testing, counseling students, dealing with student crises, and working positively with my administration team. It was a great experience in Lawrence, but there was no guidance director there in the school. So we had a school of 3,000 students, 12 different counselors. So for the past 6 years that I was there at the school, I assumed a lot of those responsibilities, along with a couple of other individuals. So I got to know not only what it was like to be a guidance counselor, but also what it was like to be a guidance director, although I didn't have that title. So when I saw this opportunity to apply here to Milford and come here to interview for the position, it really felt like a good fit all around. It was a great experience going through the interview process here and getting to meet everybody on the administration team and also on the guidance team. in terms of working here in the guidance department and some of the things that I've thought about over the summer, I did have some extra time to think about things. I started in July 1st, and there weren't many people in the building. So it was a unique experience just to be able to orient myself to the school and to work with Carrie Bannock a lot, but also to think about the goals of what I wanted for the guidance department and to hear feedback on how the guidance department has been functioning over the past few years. So some of the goals that I had been thinking about are to make sure myself and the guidance staff are responsive to the public, to students, to parents, to the Milford community, in terms of, when we do get calls coming into guidance, to try and get back to people within 24 hours. I want to make sure that I'm visible and available to the Milford community and to the school. And obviously to support students and school staff especially as everyone becomes familiar with this new schedule that we're going through. And finally, one of my goals is to work on new initiatives. I know some of the work that I've done already is with Mr. Tremblay and with Ms. Bannock to develop the hospitality management program. We'll be working on that this year for rolling out for next September. So those are the things that I thought more about as we went along, and we knew that it was going to be a little bit of a rocky start with the new schedule. There was, it seemed like there was a lot of buildup over the past couple of years in moving on to the schedule in the high school. But I think everybody's getting used to it, and I think it's going to be a positive change for everybody. I know that the counselors have been working tirelessly to make sure that everybody has the classes that they need for the graduation requirements, and also to have the electives that they chose. And overall, I just want to say I'm extremely happy to be working with such an intelligent, prepared, and informative administration staff to the high school. Carrie Bannock, Mark McGillivray, and Brian Mackey, I've experienced them as collaborative, hardworking, positive, and very thoughtful. And I look forward to working with them. And just one last note, I just have felt very welcomed overall by everyone in the high school. So I'm very happy to be here. I know it might have been a long introduction, but I really wanted to touch on as many things as I could.
That's great, thank you. I'll open it up to the committee for questions or comments. Christine?
Welcome. I'm glad to have a director of guidance. I have someone in high school, so it's
Excellent.
Something on my mind all the time. And one of the things that I think I hear a lot about is colleges, how kids are guided to what colleges they choose, how they go through that process.
Mhm.
Do you have a plan in place? I mean, you tend to hear some schools, the same schools kids are applying to.
Right.
Is there I would like to hear of a dedicated goal plan so that kids have choices that are pertinent for them, that, we're not just, 50% of the class applying here, 50, that kind of issue. So
Right.
I think that's really important. So I'm really excited to have a leader here to do that.
Mhm.
The other question I always get is responsiveness. Are you reorganizing, the way guidance is done now, we have the director, and then guidance counselors are assigned per class, per student? How is that done right now?
So to the first question in
Yep.
terms of colleges and making sure that we have, a real plan and also talking about diverse colleges. That's what I heard you talk about.
Right.
And to make sure that students aren't applying to the same colleges overall. It's been my experience that, as guidance counselors, we can't advise students as well if we're not educated on the whole process and also the different colleges. So one of the things that I want to make sure is that the guidance counselors, the 5 guidance counselors that we have, are informed and are able to go out to visit some colleges and to see some of the new programs. The colleges are updating things just about every year in terms of new programs that are coming in and differences in the application process. So I plan on having more of a concerted effort in terms of coming up with a plan for that. I know in working with the guidance counselors, one of the strengths is the work that they do with students individually and in groups. So starting off the year with the seniors, they're meeting with them individually and also in their guidance groups. So that's to start them along with that, with the college process. And the second question was about responsiveness?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In terms of,
I just hear, they put a call in, they don't get a call back.
Yep.
And so just,
Yep.
you know, a note to you that I hear that more often than not.
Yes.
So that's sometimes just a call back, I'm taking care of it, goes a long way.
Definitely, and I've heard that, you know, over I feel like the past 2 years, you know, that has been a little bit of a knock on the guidance staff, and that's something that I want to change.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And one more question. I don't think we received it yet, but at the end of the year, we see where the seniors are going. Just, you know, a list of just where our kids are going, and that would be great.
Okay.
Just see, have an
Sure.
idea where they're going and, you know, where that breaks up. And, you know, the percentage of students going to college, percentage of students going to the workforce or alternatives.
Okay.
That's incredibly helpful as a school committee member to have that information.
Sure.
And we didn't get that last year. And I've asked in the past too, which I'm not piling on, but while I have you here, kids make choices for different reasons, and that's okay. But I would like to see some kind of study of some sort that shows, you know, we have top-tier college, middle-tier college, community college, you know, what are our acceptance rates and why we're getting in some places versus other places and that kind of thing. I'm probably not articulating it well, but, you know, sometimes you see these students that are just rock stars here, like rock stars. But then you see where they get into schools and you're like, well, why didn't they get in there? It doesn't make sense. So those kind of application statistics would be great. But just knowing where our
Sure.
kids go and being able to talk about that with people is really helpful.
I'll make sure you have
And the
some more.
diversity of the class,
Yep,
yeah.
I'll make sure you have more information by the next meeting.
That's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Congratulations again and welcome.
Thank you.
I'm sure that if you were chosen by this administration, you can do the job very, very well. I'm gonna ask you this question, because I wanna ask the question to you again at the end of the school year. In the short amount of time that you've been here, what are some of the areas of concern that you see, not all of them, some of them, what your action plan is to correct them, so that at the end of the year, we can sit down and say, okay, how did we do this year?
That's a very good question. One of the themes that I have heard has been around communication, not just in the guidance department, but from other departments, and I've gotten a lot of good feedback that people are happy with the way that things are going this year. I guess in that the people are very happy about it, there's also the hope that it will continue. So I know that that's something that I'm going to work very hard on, both myself, I know the administration team is committed to that, and also with the guidance counselors. I think some of the things in terms of scheduling, and I wasn't involved over the summer and also at the end of the year with the scheduling system. And I know that Ms. Banach worked extremely hard over the summer with that, but I know that she was alone in doing that, and it was a huge amount of work. So I know that that's something that I want to be able to add to, both in shoring up the scheduling process at the end of the year and also over the summer. Man, you're putting me on the spot here. I'm not sure I can, those are two concerns that I could think of off the top of my head that I really want to be involved in, and I feel like I can have, I feel like I can answer at the end of the year also in a positive way. Sure.
Do we meet our goal,
Right,
you know? So thank you very much, and again, welcome.
thank you.
Okay, well, I got a couple of quick questions. There was some concern last year in the interim without a director, that people were concerned there was gonna be the potential that we would not be hosting the SATs here at our Milford High School. And I heard from all kinds of people and a bit of a panic. I mean, as it turned out, we did. Do you foresee that continuing to happen?
Yes, and that was one of the big initiatives coming on, that Ms. Banach wanted us to be a major testing site.
Good.
We'll have 7 testing sites this year, 5 SATs and 2 ACT testings.
Great,
The first one will start on October 5th.
awesome. Yeah, that's a convenience the parents of this town really enjoy,
Yes,
so I'm
yes.
glad to hear
I
that.
heard that was something that was lacking
Good.
last year.
Great.
Yeah.
The other thing, I guess, not so much a question, but a suggestion I get from a lot of parents recently as well, especially if it's maybe your first with respect to the seniors that are here at the high school in preparation for the recruitment process, the SATs, is there a master timeline of sorts that could be put together and in place for the reference of the students as well as the parents of these different milestones and checkpoints that really need to be reached before and up to applying to colleges?
There definitely are, and there are a lot of tools out there that can be used. Just quickly, collegeboard.com has tools for in kind of ways to map out the year for actually each year, 9th through 12th grade. So those are things that we could definitely have, and I hope to kind of update also the Milford website for the guidance page, and that's something maybe that could be added. That's a great suggestion.
And that would be good, really. I assume there were some sort of lists, like you mentioned, or even different sites, but
Right.
really making people aware of what those are and
Right.
or making them easy to get to, I think would go a long way. So that'd be a nice thing to work on or to see
Sure.
develop a little bit more.
Great, yeah, thank you
Yeah.
for that suggestion. Yeah, I definitely will work on that.
Great. Oh, Joe?
Just want to welcome you to the team as well. In light of Mr. Martin's comments earlier, and I know later on today, Bob's going to be talking a little bit about his hospitality program and the workforce training seminars. I'm excited to have you on board and to see what kind of work you, Kevin, Bob, and the other team can do surrounding career and college readiness programs. I think we need to have a very structured program that provides our students with their options, show them what's out there, what's available to them, what are the opportunities, and then provides them with some sort of plan or structure to be able to attain those goals. So I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about that later today, but
I look forward to working on those. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
All right, I look forward to it. Great to
Okay.
meet you all.
Have a good night.
Nice job.
Next up, we have the report of the superintendent of schools. Bob?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. At 7:40, we're right on time, and I understand there's a very important event happening at 8:30 with the football tonight, so I'm going to make sure that we move this agenda right along. I won't be necessarily watching the game, but I know that many other people who are watching this meeting will probably want to do that, so.
That you knew it was on, I'm very impressed.
So I'm going to work quickly through it, but just a couple of highlights here. And this, I have a lot of items under my report, but I'll go through them really quickly. Opening of school report, I know members of the committee have already touched on that. And I want to thank those of you who are able to, those who aren't here tonight, but for coming out to the schools. I know that all of you have day jobs. This happens to be mine. But all of you for taking time out of work to come here and spend time seeing the schools get started. It means a lot to the staff. It means a lot to the administrators. It certainly means a lot to me. So thank you for that. And if you aren't able to make it, I understand that too. Work obligations can and necessarily have to trump that. I was very pleased with the opening of school with the cleanliness of the buildings, and you've noticed that as well. We've had a couple of security meetings since the start of school. And we've tightened our security, as you all know, as families well know. There's a little bit of an adjustment for that. And I've actually had some parents in Mendon Upton make some comments to me about Milford who were coming here to get a sub-application, for example, saying, wow, I can't even get through the door for that.
I think there's extremes.
Yeah, and I think it's we're leveling it out.
In the school, I want to be able to drop something off. And I've got to make an appointment, I mean,
Yeah.
I get I hear that a lot. So I think that it's an evolving process. It's
It
being
is.
addressed, but
And it's and at the high school in particular, because there's so
Absolutely.
many.
It's a different place
You
here.
have the community school use program here, central office. So we know, and I appreciate everyone's patience as we work through that. We are working with the chief of police and with all the principals to try to keep it tight. But if you walk into EMC or Bose Corporation, you're not going to get down to anybody's office without checking in
Yes.
first. And we have a really precious commodity here, and I would make sure I protect that. So, but I understand too that
But-
you have to get books to it. But dropping them off at
The
the front
tone
door,
is
if we can
tough.
get them to the child,
Yeah.
I think we can. And if you want to sit in any of
It's a
those
work
meetings,
in
give
progress, but
feedback.
yes.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that we talked about, Bob, just to kind of jump on that, was some of the principals had the same concerns, Christine, but
It's a tone.
you can never be too safe in this environment. So yeah, we are working on it, we're trying to tone
Yeah.
it down, but what if something happened?
But do we?
I hear you, but
It can be, I'm confident my kids are safe in the building, but to kind of put a lockdown tone on a lot of stuff makes you say, what the heck is, that's, Milford is a safe place. We can live with the what if, we can make adjustments. I'm saying the tone it comes across, it can be hard to swallow when you are like, what? Please be reminded.
I think it's important at the beginning of the year in particular to set the tone, set the expectation, because we can forget all too quickly. When Newtown had happened, and that community, not unlike Milford, probably thought it won't happen here, not in my town. And I think that we all take that very seriously. And I understand, and you're right, it is a work in progress, and there's things that we have to adjust for. But we want to make sure primarily that our kids are safe, and people who are supposed to be in the school are. Not to say that you're not.
Yeah, no, the kids are safe,
Right, they are. They absolutely
The
are.
kids are safe in our buildings.
So, but I just to
Just an
highlight that
extra
it is tightened security. There's no question about that, and I do appreciate everyone's patience, and I'm happy to get feedback. If we can try to improve that, I'm happy to hear that too, and we'll try to work with that. And also, talk about Milford High School and some strides we've made. If you haven't seen the banners at the front of the high school, we have banners hanging there acknowledging that for the first time that Milford High School by U.S. News and World Report was ranked among the top 50 high schools in the state of Massachusetts. Had a ranking in the top 1,000 across the country, in fact, based on a number of variables that influenced that ranking. But Milford is number 37th in the state. It's a real source of pride for us and something we want to continue to improve upon. But it's based on a number of variables, AP class enrollment, scores, SAT scores, a number of, and I can provide that information. It's on our website, but we're very proud of that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is that U.S. World News report comes and solicits that information? Is that something we have to put out there?
No, we don't apply for it. It's something
they just survey all the high schools and take those statistics and put that forward.
and they report
Okay.
every year, yeah.
Yeah, because they do it for the colleges too, but there's controversy in how those numbers are made, so I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, and we put that all up front is to show everybody, because there,
Yeah.
it's like you get the
It's
who's
nice.
who in for college in the mail,
Yeah,
and like, oh
it's
wow,
nice.
I arrived at the who's list, but meanwhile everybody got one.
Right,
And
right.
so it's a little different, and it's important to understand the criteria. So if anyone who wants to, who questions sort of the integrity of that process, it's on our website, or certainly you can email me, and I'll provide any links that might
It
be
is,
helpful.
it's a nice accolade to have, I just want people to know that.
Absolutely, and really, and people do always question that,
Yeah,
kind of, is
it's-
it a real award, is it? sort of
Everybody
a-
was in the same pool and,
Right,
the information is,
yeah, and we don't go looking for those awards, they're
Right.
just kind of bestowed upon us.
yeah, it's nice.
It's very nice. So that's just the opening school reports. We're watching our enrollment. We made those adjustments. Class sizes, for the most part, at the primary level, grades K through 2, is a nice, comfortable number. Although we're watching the numbers at grade 2 at Brookside School. The numbers at Woodland School are high, 25, and some grade levels in every class. Then it evens out. It gets to about 18, 19 at the middle school through the high school. But we're limited with space, obviously, at Woodland School. There's nowhere, even if we had to hire another teacher, there would be no place to put that teacher. And the enrollment, I'm very interested to try to find out more about this. I've been watching the enrollment pattern overall. If you recall, we talked about watching the number of kindergarten registrations, and that was the big push. How's that going to impact first grade? But it seems that since April of last year till now, we've registered over 160 students. And those aren't kindergartners. Only about 9 of those account for the kindergarten registration. What I don't know yet, and I'm looking into that, is what happens is the Family Resource Center manages the enrolling students, but the withdrawal process happens at the school level. So I don't know what the net gain is, but I know it's a gain. Because when we had this, the numbers had been around 4,200, I want to say we're around 4,350 now. So there's a net gain here, and when I look at the list of the students, they're coming from everywhere. I mean, whether it's from East Boston, Waltham, Weston, Egypt, you name it. They're all over the radar, so it's not like it's a pocket coming in any one. But I am watching that, I am mindful of that, but it's, there likely will be an impact of class size as this continues, and we'll watch and see if the numbers withdraw over time. But right now, they seem to be a one-way ticket here.
Is it dispersed throughout the grades?
It is through K-12, yeah. I don't have that, I don't have like a,
A bubble or?
no, it's not a bubble in any one grade. Unfortunately, it is, but in 1 week alone, we had 18 kids register at Woodland School. You said at it's only 2 grades there, so it's tough. And they're Milford residents. These aren't school choice students we're talking about here. These are Milford residents that are entitled to an education here. So we're mindful of that. I'm not sure where everyone's moving to and what's happening, but we are certainly watching that, and we'll keep the committee briefed on that if there's a need for us to bring on more staff or whatever it may be.
Well, were the 18 students, were they people that were presently living in Milford, say, last year, or are they people that transferred into Milford and then registered?
No, there could be students who are here who, let's say, for example, attended Milford Catholic. And so they were already, so they're not necessarily move-ins to the town, but they're here and now they're changing whatever schools, or maybe they were choicing elsewhere and now they've elected to come back to Milford. So there's a combination of people moving into town and then a combination of people who are already in town who are now exercising their right to get the education here. So
It's a tough thing, but it's a good thing to
it's a
have.
good thing. So it means Milford is attractive, and we're happy about that, but there's no vacancy right now, you know. Moving on to some goals, and these won't come as a surprise. You recall in July, I presented these preliminarily. The committee gave a nod to a couple of these goals at least, and then I took the feedback that was provided by the committee as a whole and the individual members' reports, and put together a number of goals that I think are attainable in a given year, keeping myself focused on these, and just to walk through them with you. The first of which is building administrator capacity and calling myself superintendent as coach. I'm really fortunate to have Kevin on the team, joining our team. Matt, you had a chance to see, is great. I really feel our administrative team district-wide is a solid team working together. It's now freed me up to, because I know that Kevin has a watchful eye on curriculum, instruction, and assessment, and now to really move to be a mentor for building principals, to make sure I'm there to coach them and work with them. And what I've proposed in here, just to go through, I'm not going to read all this to you. It's available, and certainly for anyone who's watching in the media, I'll make this available after tonight. But some of the benchmarks that I've put in, how do you build this capacity among administrators, is administrative walkthroughs and co-observations with principals. This year I'll have the time to do that, to actually sit with principals as they observe teachers, and that gets to this whole idea about calibration. Is the principal at Memorial School looking for proficiency or exemplary the same way that a principal at Brookside School is, the same way that Woodland is? So are all the principals have the same view of what a proficient teaching looks like? And that's something we'll do together, then we'll compare notes. Similarly, and what I envision here is take, for example, Kevin, myself, Meg Belcito, and Jen Lancaster representing now. So Kevin's the whole curriculum side, ELL, special education, myself. We all come upon a school, and I'll shadow, we'll just use Woodland School, for example. I'll shadow Craig. Kevin will go off and meet with curriculum team leaders in that building. Meg will observe her program, Jen, her program staff. A couple of hours, we come back together, and then we debrief what everybody saw around a clear focus. And that focus will come from the educator evaluation tool. So let's just say we pick a topic like student engagement. So now in September, every administrator, every central office administrator, and every building administrator is focused on what are they observing in the classroom around student engagement. So then we can have rich discussion about that topic. It's linked to the evaluation tool. It really helps staff effectively, and it keeps us all really focused on that task at hand. So that's really what I'm getting at as superintendent, as coach. And if you think of these as sort of rounds, educational rounds, or like, in a medicine, you'd have your doctors kind of walking around together with all the patients in a hospital, and we do the same idea. We want to actually bring it to the next level and have all of the principals, basically the administrative team of 11 of us, walk into the school and really get into classrooms, so all 11 of us are there, and then come back and debrief about that. It will give us a good picture of what we need for budget moving forward, what the enrollment trends are actually, what the impact might be in classes, and it will help us to better inform our teachers as to what we need in classrooms.
No doubt. And I'm excited for you to be able to have this as a goal now, as the superintendent of the schools, and to sort of coach and quarterback your team of administrators. And I think we've said it all along, you have the right players in place now at the administrative level, right down to, some of the newest appointments at the principals of different schools. So, this is really going to give you an opportunity to shine in your role as superintendent. And I like the plan that you have in place here.
Thanks. Yeah, so that's really the sense of their leadership team meetings, and these are all I call them benchmarks. Those are all the things that will translate to evidence, so you can see that I've made this progress and things that the committee will review at mid-cycle and at the end. So, are there any questions on that professional practice goal, or comments or suggestions? Does it seem like it's otherwise laid out okay? Yeah. Great. Moving on to the hospitality management program. This is so that's the professional practice goal. And I think the professional practice is my own professional practice, but also the professional practice of everybody on my administrative team, and helping them to be better, all of us to be better in our roles by helping one another. Student learning goals, I've identified two here. The first is hospitality management, and the second is workforce training seminars for Milford High School students. And I think these two are in tandem with one another. The real push for me and for the district, we're really doing some great things, as shown by our ranking in one area, but also our improvements, the growth our students have been making in MCAS, for example. But it's our career readiness skills. I know Mr. Martin came in tonight and had some concerns that he put forward, and I understand his points about the vocational schools really serving a population of students who may not want to go in the career, college pathway, but instead a career pathway. And with 835 applicants to Blackstone Valley Tech this year and only 300 or so slots to fill them, there's clearly a demand. Students are craving one-on-one attention. They're craving the hands-on learning, to connect some meaningful way what they get out of a book to how it translates to the trade. Whether that continues on into college or if they want to go out and do a vocation. The hospitality management program is, I really think, going to take off here. I've been working over the summer, which is really why I wanted the support of the committee back last June or July, in June I think it was, initially, was because we needed the summer months to really lay this program out. So I'm working with the high school administration to develop the program of studies going forward, what the curriculum will look like, and that will appear as a program of studies to the school committee come January, with the actual classes beginning in September of 2014. Again, the partner we have right now is with the Doubletree in Milford, but there are 250 Hilton affiliates. There's a great pathway for our kids there. So if a student, for example, is in the hospitality management program doing coursework in year one, say their junior year, this is how we conceptualize it, just a rough conceptualization. Their senior year would be their internship year. And our vision is to take a small number of students, say 12 students in year one. We'll go through a screening process, interview process, and those students will require a schedule within the schedule in order to be effective with this program, because of the timing of the Doubletree, when they could actually intern on the job and allow them to meet all their electives and so forth. So we'll roll that out this year with hospitality, and then, as I was talking with the manager there, if students do well in their internship, they could be called back to work a banquet on a weekend. In fact, that they really show great promise. They could even then work with one of the affiliate hotels anywhere around the world. The Doubletree is very excited about this prospect, and I've mentioned before, although not to such a wide audience back in the summertime, we have Massachusetts Bay Community College, Mass Bay Community College, and Quinsigamond Community College. Both community colleges offer hospitality management programs. Both are just budding programs. They've just begun. And I'm working to leverage that, so students may have the opportunity as part of this rollout to take credit at either of those two schools that would count as transferable college credit, not just at those two institutions, but any four-year school. And it would come at no cost to the student. So if they can knock off some college credits during their senior year and be that much of an edge on the market in their industry with the Hilton Hotel training behind them, coupled with our program here, I think we're going to set our kids up for a great opportunity, and we can certainly build that capacity. So those kids who do want to get to BBT, to Mr. Martin's point, might have an alternative. Mike Fitzpatrick at BBT is a great partner with me on this, so I've talked to him at length about this. Even today, he and I spoke about this. He offers a very, as you know, comprehensive culinary arts program. Although that is a function of hospitality management, it's not something we're pushing in Milford. Ours will be more about food and beverage, front desk management, banquets management, any of the other number of industries. There's a number of them that will be presented to you as part of the program of studies coming up in January. Second to that is the workforce training, and this is my vision to have the school committee involved. And I know that you're all busy, but I think if we can make it work where I can have you involved maybe two points in the year, one in December and one in March is what I've identified. And the idea here is to prepare students to enter the workforce. And this comes from some work with the Milford Area Chamber of Commerce. Mike, at the time you were as chairman of that group, and I had the chance I'm still on that board as an education liaison, and we hear from industry professionals that people coming out of high school who want to go into the industry and careers, they don't know how to prepare for interviews. They don't know how to write resumes. They don't know how to present themselves in an interview. So to have members of the committee who have either as business leaders, as business owners, as in your capacities, to share that experience and to help Milford kids to prepare themselves when they leave here, they can be effective in an interview, know how to dress, know how to write their application in a pen and not a pencil, or type their application, and things that we might take for granted. We never showed them that way. So I'm really excited about those 2 seminars at this goal, and so you'll see that these 2 student learning goals that I've laid out this year for myself, in addition to all the work that we're doing, are really focused on career readiness in a way that we haven't touched yet. So unless there's any comments on that, I'll just,
Just a couple questions.
Sure.
For the hospitality management program, what's the enrollment capacity there? Like how many kids you?
well, I think
Envision.
for year one, I have to work out that, I don't know the exact number on that one. I don't want to put a number out there that I can't deliver on. But in our mind's eye, we were looking at interviewing, getting some number of 12 dedicated students in year one. But I think that can grow over time. We want to just make sure we have a pilot year, and that pilot year would be next year to make sure we align everything correctly.
Yeah.
And then we can grow that program to be 15 or so kids, 20 kids in
Okay.
any given year.
Yeah, no, I think both of these items are certainly a step in the right direction. I think what I'd like to see at some point, maybe someone come in and give us a presentation on what our career and college readiness program looks like today and how these 2 items fit into that, because I think it needs to be part of a broader, more comprehensive curriculum that's focused on career readiness and college readiness. The seminars, I think, are certainly a step in the right direction. You know, I think maybe it's just a term seminar. I think it should be part of the curriculum itself, and be something that's sustainable, that carries over year to year and isn't dependent upon the school committee or members of the community to present. So,
And I think I agree with you. I think for this year it was more of just as a pilot
Sure,
concept, as a seminar. But I agree. That it should be something we built in. I'd like to see us take on a few other things down the road too. A public speaking requirement as a
Right.
capstone for graduation. And I've talked to Matt and the team about that, but I think there's a real need in that.
but I'm excited about both these programs. I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. I think it would benefit a lot of kids, potentially help us with graduation rates, right? Kids that are at risk may, benefit from the hospitality management program, so.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's great. I think it targets a very small population, and we have 4,000 kids. So I'd love to see a goal in here on student learning that addresses a larger population of our student body. And I don't know what that is. I've asked for some technology-specific initiative that we can get in there, but I would really like to see something that also branches out beyond the high school. And in the workforce training seminars, I think it's a great idea. I think it needs to be developed more than a seminar. I think if you're going to develop a program, then it should be 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. These are what we're gonna do. Seminar, when you're in 9th grade, it's gonna be this in December and this in fall. I think 2 seminars makes it just this, I don't know how you can see effect of it. So I think if you're gonna make this as a goal, I could come up with 2 seminars. I want, develop a program, a workshop program for that. But I think these goals are great. I applaud Mr. Martin for being here because it is a real problem, I think, we can't serve the kids that those vocational schools were started for, that's what they were. Although I will say there are some vocational schools that don't have what BVT has. There's other schools around that don't have this same problem. They can't fill classes, so BVT is, stellar in what they've done in that way. So I applaud that, and I think this is great, and I think we have a lot of kids to educate in different ways. So I think the focus is great, but I just want a broader task. I want something that addresses more than just the high school.
Sure. And there's a number of things, and I'll work with Kevin on that as well. We have it's a pilot year for us too with the park assessment. So we'll actually have to be doing this, rolling out the park assessment at various grade levels, and that's another student piece. But
That's great,
yeah.
but that's not here.
No, I understand.
That's the stuff that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
A district-wide student learning objective. That's probably what I'm looking for.
Absolutely.
That's
There are
measurable.
plenty of them. It's just a
And
matter
I
of
know there
picking
are,
one to-
and that's why it's nice to see them here, because when we do your evaluation in the spring, it's nice to have that there.
Absolutely.
It doesn't end in a year, but there are measurables that you can take from it, and it's a district-wide measurable.
Will do.
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent suggestion.
Christine, I agree with everything you say, but I want to go on record as saying, because I speak at vocational schools, and one of the problems that really is driving vocational education, the direction that it's going, is the parents. Because I was in a meeting on Friday using Chrysler Corporation in the Northeast region, which is from Philadelphia all the way to the top of Maine. There are less automobile technicians than there were in the Boston zone 20 years ago. There was 2,600 20 years ago in the Boston zone. In the entire Northeast corridor, there's less than 600. And one of the things is, when I go to the school and I'm talking to the children, the students about getting into the automobile industry, and I'm not ashamed to say I have technicians working for me, making over $100,000 a year, full benefit packages, okay, 5 days a week. The only stress they have is the stress they put on themselves. I mean, literally, I call myself the highest paid babysitter. I bring them in, I make sure they have lunch, make sure they produce well, and send them home. I tell them every day, you should be proud of what you do. You do a function that most people could never do. They're electricians, they're plumbers, they're welders, but what happens is, because of the stigma, parents, and I'm not putting parents down, I'm just saying, but parents want them to go to, computer science, and they want them, to go to get a degree in marketing, and I sit there and say to myself, all I can think of is digital, and then they went away. Prime, they went away, and I'm saying, so yeah, the computer industry is great, but it's not for everybody.
Right.
Pick up the phone book and try and find a good plumber. It's hard. A good painter, a roofer, and that's because the children are being forced, in my experience, I see them being forced into areas a lot of times where they don't want to be. They want to work with their hands, but unfortunately, I think the parents think that it's not right for them, and that's some of it.
Or the tech school becomes, you get a trade in case you don't go to college. That in case, rather than serving the student who, that's the trade, that's what they want to do.
Right.
That's what they want to do with their life. I don't know what the fix is. I think it's a quandary. Because we, as a public school, cannot service everybody. We cannot fill all those gaps. We can fill some of them and fill them well, but we can't fill all of those gaps. And I think based on the law, if it's provided a vocational school, we can't start it here. It wouldn't make sense to start it here, right?
A vocational school here?
And not a vocational school here. Some of the programs a vocational school will offer.
Well, you can.
So they kind of have a niche. and
Milford
we
could
can't.
be eligible for Chapter 74 monies.
Yeah.
There's certain requirements that have to happen in terms of building code, and
Right.
it's
Numbers
it's a
and-
little trickier. But it's possible, and we actually are looking into that, because the hospitality management program that we would want to roll out would be a perfect match for a Chapter 74 program. It would not necessarily mean that BVT gets less Chapter 74 money as a result.
It's not like a school choice.
So we're not necessarily competing for it, provided that we're not offering programs that compete with BVT's programs.
That's right. That's
That's the key.
complication.
See, there are programs, for example, if someone wanted to, and what you see happening is people can't get into BVT, you find out they start applying to Norfolk Aggie.
Right.
And suddenly they want to follow equestrian science instead of being an HVAC tech, because animal science meant they could apply there. But every time that happens, it's a check from our school budget for 24,000. What are we up to now for Norfolk Aggie? Is it around 24?
I would say it's just under that.
Yeah, somewhere in that range per head, per year.
Right.
And we have to, if they get accepted, we have to pay that tuition. So until we can try to find the balance and create more opportunities for kids, so we can bring the supply and demand in check with one another.
Yeah.
It's hard, and
It's
the
a
industries
really,
have
really
changed so
tight-
much. So,
Yeah.
They said the top 10 jobs in the world right now didn't exist 6 years ago. Which is an amazing data point. Incredible.
Do the
Yeah.
kids have an option of choosing what vocational school to go to, or do we have a specific partnership with BBT where if they want to go to vocational school?
Yeah, they have regional lines that are drawn, even like community colleges. So like Mass Bay has certain definitive lines that have been drawn, as QCC does, regional community colleges. The same thing with regional vocational technical high schools. So our BVT, some kids could apply to Tri-County, but only if BVT didn't offer a program.
Okay.
So they could try to find a niche and apply there, but then there's certain application deadlines, but BVT is our regional vocational school that we send Milford kids to.
And if
Yeah,
they're
there's no school
rejected,
choice to a different vocation.
if they're rejected by BBT, could they then go to Tri-County, or do they not have that option?
No, they don't have that
They don't have that option. Okay.
Yeah, unless it's a different program altogether.
Okay.
But that's where you say, that's where kids are switching what they want to study, because that's what they have to do at that point.
That's right, in order to have that hands-on experience.
Okay.
Really tough.
Now, the next goal here, moving right along, is a district. So it's a district improvement goal. Those are student learning goals, and this may be where I expand to get into the student learning piece. The educator evaluation process here, we started this, a couple of years back. This continues to be something. There continues to be debate as to what is negotiable with a union and what is not. And the Commissioner of Education feels very differently than Paul Toner, who's the leader of the the Massachusetts Teachers Association agreement on. Okay, so you'll hear this term a lot, and Kevin will talk about it tonight, about DDMs, and these are district determined measures. And this really comes down to is what the district determines is the assessments that will then get reported a year from now to the state. So we're not only just now reporting like you'd have for MCAS, or if Park replaces it ultimately, but how teachers are performing. If they're proficient exemplary, that now gets reported to the state. And then on top of that, the district determined measures are, what are the assessments we use in Milford that we think, and then the state agrees, are the appropriate measures of student learning. And then on top of that, we have to report the actual student outcomes a year after that. So it's linking, and you can understand the debate. If students aren't performing well, suddenly they're being held to task by the state, and we have to report that. So there's a little bit of pushback at the table of this. So we have to, all of this is linked to negotiation in some respects, and in a lot of curriculum work, determining which are the right measures for our kids, and are they empirical enough to stand in the face of whatever the test is that the state will apply to those assessments we use, to make sure that it's rigorous enough. So that will be a lot of that work that we'll be doing this year. And I say we, it's really me, it's Kevin, it's all the principals, it's the negotiating team, and then in a short time it'll be all of you who are at the table negotiating these terms. So that's been an ongoing goal, actually. The alumni office development, as I mentioned earlier, the announcements about homecoming being one of the events. The goal here for me is the registration in year one of 100 alumni that now re-engage with
That
the
should
Milford
be
schools.
reasonable.
100 alumni, I think, is
That's
it may be low. I don't know. I think under promise, over deliver.
Yeah.
You'll see a
So-
last minute surge, I'm gonna guess.
Yes.
If I get 1,000, something like that would
I
be great.
can't
But
believe there's never been a homecoming here.
there hasn't. I
It's-
dug back. I talked to
Not
Carla and I
organized.
talked to
Yeah.
we couldn't think back to one.
Officially organized.
So we'll find out. But that's the goal for this year. And it's really the idea there is to connect. So if you have a Milford alum who maybe there's a job opportunity in a company somewhere and wants to extend it to a Milford kid to apply to, now we can create those linkages. So that's I think it's a nice piece for Milford to offer and to better connect with our alum.
Well, in a piece of that might be finding alumni who maybe are looking to hire that might come in and contribute to that program as it develops on interviewing and preparing. You might find some volunteers that might find a pipeline into here and be willing to help.
That's right.
So-
And when I launch this page very soon, you'll be able to click on and register. It does ask that question, were you currently employed? And there's certain kinds of, so we can try to pair people up and really grow a true alumni office for the Milford schools out of that. So those are the initial goals that I've laid out. I'll go back and rework the district-wide student learning goal
Thank you.
in there. And unless there's any other questions on this presentation, I'm going to put that forward as we were already hard at work on some of those. The next item is the Woodland School Building Project update. I provided you, it's getting busy right now with Woodland, so I'm not gonna detail it for you, but I did provide, you'll see it's the blue spreadsheet. I don't know if you have that at your seat. I passed these out beforehand. Did I give you one?
You did, yeah.
Okay. Okay, and you can see what's happening at this point, in summary, we were at the Massachusetts School Building Authority yesterday. So amidst all this great work, there's a school building project going on that we're consumed with meetings on that. We're in Boston yesterday, had a very productive meeting with their executive board, but the work that we've done toward the design work of a new school. And now the work is really kind of vetting the details, what is needed in a classroom, the flow of students when you put 1,000 kids or 985 students in a school, 300 on a floor, the flow of traffic, how buses move, how parent drop-off works, specialists, how all this is going to happen. So it's all that, now we're meeting with 5th grade staff, 4th grade staff, 3rd grade staff, working through architectural designs, and that's the status that we're at here. So And again, you're welcome to pop into any of these meetings. They're really all laid out. And this, what you see over 2 pages just between now and December.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, if you look at the trend and the numbers that have happened this year, yeah, that's, I mean, the number for 985 is design enrollment. You do have a margin in there, but the
We're
margin
real
is,
close.
yeah.
Amazing.
We expected this margin to be 10 years from now, so it's gonna
Yeah.
be, we're gonna be building this thing to fit.
But it'll be a comfortable capacity.
It'll be comfortable, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be twice as comfortable as the
Yeah.
capacity now, in
Yeah.
fact. Really comfortable,
I
like
know,
going from a,
it's just amazing.
it's like going from a
that-
dorm bed to a king-size bed, you know,
that
so
there'll
we
be
have
that
plenty
many
of room.
third and fourth and fifth graders.
Yeah, it's a lot, it's a
amazing.
lot of students. But the Massachusetts School Building Authority is, we have a great team. You know, we have Shamit, is the contractor, the construction manager at risk. So they're on board with us in terms of the design to keep the cost affordable. And, Jocelyn Lester's done a great job. They'll be coming in October to present to the school committee. And so you actually, at that point, be able to see some of the real design work. How it's gonna look, where it's gonna be plotted, what the rooms are gonna look like, and, it'll start to come to life.
Yes.
That'll be October, I think October 10th meetings when they're slated to come.
Yeah, right here.
And so that's the update on the Woodland School project. The next is an action item I asked for the committee to take a vote on it, rather than drag the policy subcommittee to the table for
I was
anything.
thinking, did I miss a meeting?
No, I you know, I may take a slap on the wrist for this one for not going to that policy committee, but it's literally
That's
adding
okay.
one line in the, what I gave to you in the Corey form. And basically, it's just requiring the photo ID, so it just says, it's in boldface, to process a Corey, a copy of your license is required. It's
was
required
always
anyway, it's
standard,
nothing
yeah.
new.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, it's just not been stated in this letter, so we end
Okay.
up having to go back and chase everybody for this. So it's just better to put it out there. But it is one of our policies. I didn't think it was worthy of having a policy subcommittee for that line, and I don't wanna waste your time to do that. So if
I'm good
the
with it.
committee, usually there's multiple readings of this, but I would ask the committee, just because we do a lot of these every day, if you would consider a request to have this in effective immediately.
Yeah, it's a quick read. We have a motion.
I have a motion,
From
yes.
Christine, a second from Mike, all in favor? Unanimous in favor, so yeah, let's make that change immediately.
Okay, thank you very much. And just 2 more quick items here. The parent-student handbook at Milford Middle Schools, this is an amendment from, I have this at your seat as well. I passed this out as a distribution. It's really a matter of 3 minutes we're talking about. It's not changing anything about what we do right now. It's not changing the times. It's just changing because the school committee votes the handbook, and the handbook was incorrect
We have to revote.
based on the
Yeah.
contract, and the committee took a vote to accept the handbook. I need the committee to revote the handbook with this amendment.
And we're, the changes, we are
The
about
change is
here
the
under
start
A,
time at 7:42.
homeroom,
It's just the start at 7:42
Oh,
it's
I'm just on the
from,
next
so the top page, is the corrected page. The page underneath it is it's really just, so the amendment is needed for
it
the
said
start time.
7:45 to 7:50,
From 7:42 to 7:45
and now it's 7:42.
to 7:45. Just that start time of homeroom.
Yep.
Still that 3 minute, which is happening already. Just doesn't say that in the
It has
handbook.
to.
Understood.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion, or
A
second, Joe.
motion from Joe, second from Christine, all in favor?
Yep.
Unanimous in favor.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
It's just a housekeeping item. And then the last item is a request that I put forward to the school committee because it's out of state. It's a national conference. American Association of School Administrators is holding a national conference. I've not gone to one of those, I don't think ever, but the agenda looks like it would be really useful on a lot of different topics. I provided some of the key topics in the packet. And I'm just asking, I'm not sure, Kathy, normally this falls, something you would ask for out-of-state travel, so I'm not sure what I'm asking. I guess permission to travel out of state is what I'm looking for this.
Within your contract.
Within my contract, but I have to get permission from the committee because I'm traveling over the state line.
In the costs covered,
Yeah, within
It's professional development.
within your
my
professional
contract, yeah,
development.
it's within my professional development contract, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see anything in,
I
is there an
didn't see
agenda in
anything,
here?
though.
Oh, it didn't come in your, in the
I don't think
PDF
it came
file?
in my PDF, because I remember seeing it on the agenda, being like, oh, maybe we're getting it, maybe it got withdrawn, because
Or I
that's
thought
happened
we
to
were
us before,
getting
but
it
I didn't
tonight,
see
yeah.
it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I asked, I don't have another copy.
I don't think
We
it's
can take it up at the next
It's
meeting if you
okay.
want, or
I'll make a motion,
Okay, I'll forward you the information tonight.
yeah,
just so you have the
It's
details.
it's professional
Christine.
development
Yeah,
for you, which you haven't.
yeah,
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
thank-
sounds like a good trip.
Thanks, I'm sorry that was not included.
Motion from Christine, second from Mike, all in favor? Unanimous
Thanks,
in
and I'll
favor?
forward that tonight, I apologize. Yeah, I'll do my best. I'll do my best.
Yeah, but I didn't see it either.
Bring your cowboy votes.
That's right. And so I left Kevin like 10 minutes, and Kathy, so is that all right? You have 12 minutes.
Minutes.
Okay, next up, so that's everything then, right, Bob?
That's all, yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Kathy, report of the Assistant Superintendent in Business, Human Resources.
I have for the committee this evening 6 warrants for your approval, and we're still not caught up. I'll bring another 6 next time. The first warrant is in the amount of $279,391.54.
Motion from Christine, second from Joe, all in favor? Unanimous in favor?
The second warrant is in the amount of $174,771.06.
Motion for Mike, second from Christine, all in favor? Unanimous in favor?
The third warrant is in the amount of $108,074.59.
Motion from Joe, second from Mike, all in favor? Unanimous in favor?
The fourth warrant is in the amount of $4,371.99.
Motion from Christine, second from Joe, all in favor? Unanimous in favor?
And the fifth warrant is in the amount of $3,521.79.
Motion for Mike, second from Joe, all in favor? Unanimous in favor?
The last warrant is in the amount of $392,600.81.
A motion from Mike, second from Christine, all in favor? Unanimous in favor?
The committee also has a personnel update with a list of the latest appointments from our previous meeting. However, I do have a request for course reimbursement in the amount of, I can't see it, I have to enlarge it. It's gone. Okay, the course reimbursement is in the amount of $57,615.27.
Motion from Christine, second from Mike, all in favor? Unanimous in favor?
And there are gifts this evening.
There are, I see them right here. The first gift is from Hillview Equipment and Leasing Company for the Chris Herron project in the amount of $500. Motion to accept from Joe, second from Mike, all in favor? Oh, we'll do that at the end. I'll read through them all.
That's fine.
The next one is Milford High School Parents for Music for the Chris Herron project, the amount of $100. Very nice. Our generous donors. The Middlesex Savings Bank for teacher and curriculum development in the amount of $1,250. And lastly, the Milford Lions Club for instruction and materials in the amount of $300. So a motion to accept all these gifts and thank our donors. Motion from Joe, second from Christine, all in favor? Unanimous in favor? Thank
That's
you,
it this
Kathy.
evening. Thank you.
Next up, we have the report of the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, Dr. McIntyre.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
My goal with these updates is just to keep the committee apprised of a number of initiatives going on in the Milford Public Schools. And I want to kind of talk about them broadly today, and then in preceding meetings, start to get into a little more detail for everyone. First, I always like to just talk about the focus of our work, and really the goal is we want to know what is it our students know and be able to do, how do we know our students are learning, how will we respond when students do not learn, and how do we extend and enrich the learning for our students who are proficient or get a particular concept or standard. The key initiatives we're working on this year is the mentor program. We're revamping that program. The curriculum committee, curriculum mapping, response to intervention tiered system of support, district determined measures, The Common Core Park, we're shifting over to the Common Core standards, and we will be field testing the park test this year at all of our schools. And then building the data analysis capacity of educators in the district. Our new teacher induction and mentor program, historically, we've had the 2-day induction. We added a presentation to that induction this year to go over program expectations. We're also completing monthly building level and district meetings, and we just had our most recent meeting 2 days ago. And what we focused on there was communication with parents, and we had a number of administrators, some of our mentors, and just some of our teachers and department heads that talked about communicating with parents. And it was an opportunity for our new teachers to ask questions about a number of different topics related to that. And I'd just like to recognize Meg Belcito, Jen Lancaster, Chrissy Worth, Amanda Cunningham, Steve Weber, Anna Cahill, Carrie Bannock, and Paula Mullahu for all participating on those panels. And I think it went very, very well. We're doing additional presentations on classroom management, special education, ELL, working with data, and we're going to do a big wrap-up at the end of the year to get feedback on how to make the program even better the following year.
And these are held during the contractual after-school?
These are held after school as part of the mentoring program.
Okay.
So it's not on the monthly Tuesday.
Okay.
They're just
It's
scheduled
set
throughout the year.
time
And there's
where
actually a
they have-
handout in your packet that kind of goes over the schedule for the year. Okay. The curriculum team leader agenda. Our goal here is to really just kind of dig into the curriculum pre-K through 12 in the district and address a number of issues, make strong programs stronger, and build on a lot of the good work that's happened in the past. Some of our topics this year are going to be curriculum mapping again, response to intervention, which is a big focus for the district in terms of professional development, differentiated instruction, district-determined measures, assessment, data analysis, and then just looking at subgroup performance and then really digging into the data on a number of topics. Our goal is to create interactive curriculum maps at each grade level and in each content area that are accessible to all teachers. This work is ongoing and a lot of it has been done. What we're trying to determine this year is how close are we to making the crosswalk from the old standards to the new Common Core standards, which will be what the students are assessed on next year. The DESE does an assessment both on the old standards and the new standards when we're analyzing MCAS scores. So we can kind of see where we're going according to those new standards, but also look at our overall MCAS scores, if that makes sense.
So the old standards compared for people, they hear Common Core. What's Common Core versus what we were before?
So to answer that question quickly, the old standards, and they vary in what year they came out, but the new
Right.
standards came out in 2011, and they're aligned, the Massachusetts standards are aligned to the National Common Core standards. And the new park test, which will be field testing in the spring, and I'll talk to you about in more detail at a future meeting, is going to assess people, the students in Massachusetts, but also students through this consortium of about 20 states. There's two big consortiums on these new Common Core kind of national standards that are connected to our new 2011 standards for English and mathematics. One of the big differences from the old standards to the new standards is that the expectation is that every teacher is a teacher of writing and to some extent a teacher of reading. Is that kind of...
Yeah, it just gets confusing for people.
It's
You hear
it's
Common
confusing to
Core
me too when I
standards, core
play around with it
standards,
every day.
and really it's
Yeah.
putting the whole country in line with a national expectation for each student to achieve and be taught.
Correct.
Every student across the country, whereas
Correct.
before it was more state-driven.
Correct.
But Massachusetts will still have its high benchmark,
Correct.
but it will be also in line.
And there's a difference between the
national-
curriculum and the standard. The curriculum will be different
Right.
state to state,
See.
but the standards will be consistent.
Gets confusing for people.
It's very confusing. Curriculum development is an ongoing process. We really want to engage all of our teachers in this process. All of these items are connected. Curriculum, instruction, and assessment all lead to very positive student learning outcomes. Why do you create curriculum maps? You want to make a sense of students' learning experiences over time, so you're going to vertically and horizontally align the curriculum. You want to ensure a viable and guaranteed curriculum. You want to establish learning targets for all students. and you also want to align that curriculum to those new Common Core standards. The curriculum maps alert you to where you've been, where you're going, where you are, and where you are going. Again, we have maps in place, and our goal is to create a platform where teachers are regularly engaging in the maps. There's clear connections to assessments, and how our assessment results impact the maps. The goal is to use those assessment results to impact teaching and learning. And you do that on a day-to-day basis, you do it over time, and you do it based on results from previous years. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Again, it's a communication tool. Grade level teams examine maps. Teachers within buildings use those maps for a true picture of what students experience from grade to grade. It's really good for teachers to know where students have been and where they're going. In terms of an implementation plan, we're examining a number of different options, our tools for interactive curriculum maps. The DESE is working on one. They've rolled out to Race to the Top districts. I think it was like 25 districts last year, and it's about 75 this year, and they're going to roll it out as an option for everybody next year. I'm going to be looking at that tool in the next month, along with a number of other tools. We've had a couple of different companies do presentations for us as well to look at the best tool for our teachers. So it's something that the teachers can engage in regularly instead of a binder that sits on a shelf and collects dust. It's going to be a key project for curriculum team leaders across the district.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
Is there, do you have any idea of what the cost might be involved with that?
The
type of
DESE program
tool?
is free,
Okay,
but I don't know how user-friendly and what the
Yeah.
viability of it is. It can vary. I'd hate to quote anything today because it can
Yeah,
vary, and
no,
it
I
depends on how we roll out the program too, how the cost kind of develops over time. So I'd hate to kind of say a number and be off because I don't have
Yeah.
that in front of me. It's not crazy money, but it's a cost. Okay. It's in a monthly agenda item for principal meetings, and the goal is, again, to have that living, accessible plan for teachers. RTI has been an ongoing goal and priority for the district the past few years. Again, we want to identify practices occurring at each of the schools and grade levels, identify practices, processes, and protocols that can occur in all schools, and develop tools to measure the effectiveness of the RTI practices that we're using. This is kind of a blueprint of the Massachusetts Tiered System of Support. You'll hear MTSS sometimes stated. That's just Massachusetts term for RTI. Okay? It really works. There's 3 tiers. Tier 1, and these are to intervene when students are struggling either academically or behaviorally. Tier 1 is what's happening kind of generally in the classroom, and 80 to 90% of issues can be remediated at the Tier 1 level based on, differentiated instruction, putting plans in place, changing instruction, using assessment to inform instruction, or providing a different assignment or a different task for a particular student. Tier 2 is a little more intensive, and that could be a pull-out program within the course of a school day. Tier 3 is even more intensive, where you're talking about potentially moving into like special education, for example. Again, one of the committee members asked me at the last meeting, where are the Milford Public Schools? We're in different places. The RTI program isn't going to look the same. It's never going to look the same in the pre-K Shining Star program versus the high school. The goal is to have a consistent theme throughout, a consistent goal. And really what RTI is, it's really jargon, again, I said this before, for helping students who are struggling in a particular area. We need a consistent approach that can be flexibly implemented. And again, the interventions are going to look different in kindergarten versus a physics class. But
Numbers change,
yes.
so there's more.
So it's fluid.
Yeah.
It's very fluid. You're not even going to really track the Tier 1 kids as much
Okay.
because they're being
In the classroom.
they're right in the classroom. Who you're tracking is the Tier 2 and Tier 3 students. You're tracking the Tier 1 because you're concerned
Yeah.
about a student, but there's going to be, a teacher could do 100 interventions in a day that's never going to go on a piece of paper. It's just part of good practice.
Just to interrupt you just for 1 second.
Sure.
I want to make sure it's a lot of letters being thrown around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know, MTSS and RTI and
and
for the,
RTI
the
is-
same
I think for
Yeah.
the committee to know and for the people who may be watching who aren't living this language every day like we do, it's all connected.
Yeah.
And PBIS, another four-letter word. We have PBIS that we've talked about before. PBIS, Positive Behavioral Intervention and Supports, is the behavioral strand of RTI. And then you have two, sort of this pyramid, but you have the behavioral side and the academic side. And what I mentioned in the goal about the superintendent as coach is that we're gonna be going in looking at the RTI process to make sure that 80 to 90% of our kids are being serviced effectively in the classroom. And then those really sort of specialized medicine programs that happen, that's really targeting the right population of kids. So all of the goals that I've set and what Kevin's been talking about and what we've been doing is all linked together. RTI, PBIS, educator evaluation, DDMs, all these things, they all link to what's good teaching and learning.
Well, I guess that's the point, though, is like what people don't get. They're not separate programs.
Right.
This is all about, this is what a teacher should be doing in the classroom. And the reason why it's district-wide is because it makes sure that everyone consistently does it. So teacher A is not delivering RTI very differently than teacher B, or school C is not doing it there's a pattern. So we have to give it a name to kind of pull it together.
Correct,
Right.
but it's part of good practice.
It's good practice,
Yeah.
you know, and that's, you're just making your better teachers because everyone's consistently delivering the same message.
That's right. So not to overwhelm people,
Yeah, there's lots of anachronisms.
But if I was sitting in a business meeting and it wasn't my business and I heard all these things being thrown at me, I would be pretty dizzy, so.
I
just
know,
don't
that's
wanna-
why I often ask to
Yeah.
stop you. Can you just explain that for people?
All right.
Sorry.
That's okay. Again, this continues the work that's been going on in the district for the past few years. Patty Kelly, who's the Title I director, has been kind of leading the charge in setting up the professional development for this year upcoming. Again, the focus is on Tier 1 interventions because that's where the biggest impact is going to be. We want teachers across the district engaging students that are struggling and making those corrections kind of on the spot. And they do that in a number of different ways, through formatively assessing the students and making a judgment, reteaching a concept to a particular group within the class, those kinds of things. And again, Tier 1 interventions are the provision of group interventions within the general education classroom. They usually represent the core instructional program. So that's what's happening in the classrooms on a day-to-day basis. If adequately differentiated to meet the needs of a varied population, 80 to 90% of students will respond and achieve established benchmarks. So whatever goals you have, you're constantly checking to make sure the students are reaching those goals. If they're not on track, what are you doing to get them there? Is really what it comes down to. And then, again, differentiated instructional practices, formative assessment data drives instruction, and really formative assessment is assessment on the spot or assessment based on you ask a group of students 3 questions on a particular concept, you get a very quick read on how they're doing, you make an assessment right at that spot. Again, you're focusing on meeting the needs of all learners in the classroom. You're offering tiered choices within the classroom. You're basically meeting students where they are. I'm not going to get into Vygotsky's theory of zone of proximal development. I thought I edited that out, but it's in there. Don't ask me about that one.
Thanks.
Student-centered classroom. And this is the workshop model that's probably been mentioned the last couple of years. We're moving from a sage on the stage model of education to a model where the teacher is facilitating the instruction. The students are engaged in the work. They're not just kind of passively sitting by and listening. They're actually engaged in the activity. Again, you want the students engaged at all times. The last piece I'm going to talk about tonight, and I'm going to say this before I forget at the end, is at the next meeting I'm going to start to present to you some of our MCAS data, and throughout the year I'm going to share different data sources that we collect in the Milford Public Schools and talk about how we're using that data. So I want to talk to you just kind of broadly about kind of data analysis, and then as we move along, we'll look at MCAS scores, we'll look at some of the ways we're looking at MCAS scores, we'll look at some of the other assessments we're doing. They're doing a lot of great things at the high school level using PSAT data, AP data, a number of common assessments as well in a number of the departments. So data literacy is the ability to accurately observe, analyze, and respond to a variety of different kinds of data for the purpose of continuously improving teaching and learning in the classroom and school. The goal is to not only determine where our strengths and challenges lie, but what are we doing that's actionable, that's going to lead us to better results in the future? Really, the key thing with data is it's about the conversation. How do we use the data? What data are we using? And how are we engaging teachers in the discussion? We don't want just a small group of people talking about data. We want everybody looking at the data, using the data, and taking it to, so there's improved learning outcomes. That's really the goal. Some of the things we're going to analyze this year, and they've been analyzing on an ongoing basis, formative assessments, MCAS, we're looking at achievement, growth, cohort analysis, we're looking at it at the teacher level, and we're looking at it at the student level. PSAT, SAT, AP, reading and math, common assessments across content areas. There's a tool in the DESE website that I'm going to share with you next meeting called Edwin, which stands for Edwin. It's just the name of the program.
The guy who said, figured it out.
I promise you I'm not making that up. But it's a lot of the data analysis tools that principals and teachers can engage to look at MCAS scores. There's an early warning system, and I'm going to share some of that, the things with you that I can. Also, we're going to look at a thing called a visual analytic resource that's a dynamic Excel spreadsheet that can really hone in on areas of need, strengths, by group, by standard, and by strand based on the MCAS scores. And you can develop these tools for all different kinds of assessments. And then district determined measures, which I think I'm going to talk about at the next meeting, just in the interest of time. A thing to remember is MCAS is the autopsy. You're looking at what happened the previous year. And the goal is you're looking at trends to understand where students are doing well, where they're not doing well, and how you're going to change curriculum and instruction. That pulls in that map. Because if you realize that, geez, we're not doing enough writing to text, we've got to build on that. Or, gosh, we're really struggling with decimals, fractions, and percents at the elementary level. We've got to increase the amount of time and maybe teach it a little differently. Those are the kind of things you're going to get from the MCAS, and that's where it's connected to the curriculum maps. This is a data pyramid, which I'm going to just go over really quickly. Education, we spend a lot of time at the top when we really need to spend a lot of time at the bottom of the pyramid, and we're going to try to flip that here in Milford and really look at the classroom data, the assessments that are collected at the school level, and really look at that information and see what it's telling us. Again, Edwin is the tool on the DESE website. The curriculum mapping piece is part of that that's going to be rolled out statewide next year. I'm going to be looking at that at the districts that are piloting it this year, because if there is an opportunity to use a free tool and it's fantastic, we're going to use that fantastic free tool rather than that fantastic expensive tool. It just makes sense. Again, there's an ability to share lesson and unit plans. There's model lessons, model units. There's also model district determined measures that the DESE just rolled out this past week that we're just kind of digging into. Again, it eliminates the need to produce data by hand. And 5 years ago, data people at schools were doing this with paper and pencil or spreadsheet, and now you just click a few buttons and it just pops up there. It's fantastic. It provides accountability information at the district level, the school level, the classroom, and the student level. And I always try to put pictures of puppies and kids, because if the presentation's going south, at least I've got that to fall back on. When looking at data, every data point is a child, and we always have to keep that in mind. Every number tells a story, and you have to really look critically at your own work. Is your analysis providing you with an accurate portrayal of that reality? And you really have to look at that. Are your conclusions the right conclusions? And I always tell anybody who's looking at data, have a couple people look at it, because they're going to have a different read on the same numbers. So where do we go from here? One of my goals this year is to build the data capacity of building administrators, district administrators, our curriculum team leaders, and our teachers. We're developing data teams at each of the schools. Some schools are going to have multiple data teams. I think the high school is looking to potentially do multiple data teams and maybe departmentalize it a little bit. We're going to look at data at the bottom of the pyramid as well as the top of the pyramid, because they're both valuable. We're going to look at MCAS scores with our K through 2 schools, because what they're doing impacts those trends that are happening at Woodland. So we're really gonna dig into that this year. We're gonna look at the data that we're looking at. We're gonna look at how we're looking at it, and we're gonna look at the value and really critically look at what we're collecting, because we don't wanna overassess our students either. Because you really do, if you've seen a 5th grader at the end of MCAS who's taken the science test, the math test, and the ELA test, you basically are shoveling them like snow off the, off the ground, because it's a lot of assessment. So we really wanna be careful and thoughtful about the assessments that we're using, and we don't wanna overassess if we're getting the same information from multiple assessments. And again, it's about the conversations. At the next meeting, I hope to review some MCAS and accountability data with you, and then share how schools are approaching data analysis, because I have been starting to work with these groups.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the thing, the conversations, is key. You can make data say anything you want, really, if you think about it, depending on what you pick and choose from. So you get the right way of looking at it and, collaborating on what what data will be the best to utilize. So, yeah, thank you.
Great.
Look forward to seeing more.
All right.
Christine, you're gonna love the data analysis.
Oh,
tool.
my
He's gonna show
gosh.
you. No, the
You
tool
can
that he
find
showed
a
us.
test for anything you want, and you can pull data out of that test, but it's how it informs you. Like,
Right.
you can take a test for this, that, well, if you're, and also the MCAS piece, you use it to inform and make what you have already better, rather than switching programs and trying to find a program that's gonna make us better next year. Let's try that. In the past, it's kind of, we felt like, is that, okay, we tried that program, well, what did it give us? Oh, but we had to switch gears and try that program because it wasn't giving us everything. So the idea to use what we have and build on it is exactly what we need. Then we're not chasing our tail, we're kind of moving in a forward direction.
Exactly.
And we have a lot of great programs in the Milford Public
Abso-
Schools that are in place.
Absolutely.
And you're doing just that thing. It's iterations, it's not big jumps.
Yep, exactly.
Instead of looking at MCAS only as the kind of the summative review, what we did last year, and then we have a whole different group of kids and a whole different configuration. The formative stuff's the kids in front of us right now, we can adjust tomorrow. And really making sure those assessments are useful. And so, what Kevin will show the next meetings, I had a chance to see that, was different data, it wasn't Milford data, but just the way you can manipulate it on the spot. So you can sit in this room, maybe, I don't know if you can redact it, so the committee could ask questions and show Milford numbers, Milford
Yeah, once the data's embargoed until
tomorrow, right, or something?
yeah, I think so, because I couldn't do it today because it's embargoed till
Yeah.
tomorrow. But at the next meeting,
Mhm.
I'll show you a tool we're using that if you have a question, you can literally just answer that question on the spot instead of going into another report or
Right.
digging.
That's
into
very
it.
slick.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think MCAS has just
Yeah.
gotten so
No questions that
distorted.
night.
Because of the public pressure with MCAS, it's lost there's value in it, but it's lost it because of the public pressure it puts on districts to
Right.
perform versus use it to inform.
Exactly
And
right.
it's so frustrating, to see that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like you, in your line of work, you spend your first, say, year collecting data, analyzing data, to then your next step, so you can turn the ship, let's say, your first year is all kind of analytical, and then you set a course of where you want to go. Am I reading that right?
You're
or-
kind of doing both, though, because
Okay.
I think there's been a lot of work going on before I got here, so
Yeah.
I don't want to dismiss. I mean, there's a lot of great work going on in the school.
Yeah, and I don't either, I'm just.
Yeah. I think we're doing both. I think we're really looking at, there's an assessment calendar for the Milford Public Schools, and I met with some of the CTLs and some of our principals, and I didn't really want to just change anything right off the bat, because not having lived it myself, I don't know exactly what they're using each piece for, and that's one of the things we're doing this year. And we're really looking at it, we're really gonna, kind of pull it apart.
Okay.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to seeing
Kevin's
it.
just been a great addition to the team. It's
Great.
really exciting with Kathy, of course, and
I'm just
All
gonna
the
say, you
principals.
can't make it all work without the money person.
she keeps us in check.
No field trip.
Yeah. No, really.
Good, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Great.
Thank you.
Next up, we have new business. Do any members have any new business?
No?
Any members have any old business? Nothing. That is all we have. There is no executive session this evening. So with that, do we have a motion to adjourn from Mike, a second from Christine? All in favor? Motion adjourned.